Welcome to the Inside the Red Raiders 2023 Texas Tech football season preview. I'm Jarret Johnson. I'm joined by the mighty Joe Yeager. Well, mighty Joe, you and I have been talking for a while now about the excitement around the team, how much we think of this team, that it's going to be a really good season, a special season, one of the best seasons in recent memory. And now it's finally upon us. Texas Tech kicks off at Wyoming, 6:30 Central Time. They're in Laramie, and I guess just what's your overall thought now that we're just days away from this thing finally getting kicked off?
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't gotten any cold feet or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've been hyping them up pretty good for the last practically since the end of last season.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not backing off on that. You know, I feel, and if anything, more strongly than ever. This team is positioned to really make a lot of noise this year. Everything seems to be falling into place pretty well. There aren't any bad things that we haven't received. Where's the wood to knock on, man?
Okay.
We haven't heard any bad news. You know, there haven't been any bad storylines like, oh, man, usually, you know, before every football season, there's at least one or two things that are like something bad happened. Usually an injury of some sort.
Right.
But, again, so far, nothing like that has happened. So, I mean, everything's just setting up, falling into place real well. And, you know, I've been talking 9-3. I could easily go 10-2 on this team.
Yeah, here's my overview. I'll try and be succinct with this. Veteran team led by a master motivator in their head coach, Joey McGuire. Good coordinators in Kitley and DeRuiter. No real perceived weaknesses. It's a big team, like I said, veteran team. I think there's some really good speed. I think it's going to be significantly faster in spots than it was last year, which is crazy considering a lot of the team comes back. And I think the weaknesses right now is we don't know for sure about the tackles and some concerns in terms of depth in the secondary.
Right.
But barring that, I mean, this is the most complete team I've seen in Texas Tech in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, you know, on paper, man, it looks about as, you know, it does. You take it back all the way to 2008.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how far you have to go back to see one that was clearly better than this team. Now, that 2008 team went into the season with higher expectations than this one did. I'm not sure exactly where they were ranked, but I think it was somewhere around 10 in the country. And the current team has been getting some positive publicity. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, it's been a little bit muted too. I mean, with Mike Leach, he had more of a track record than Joey McGuire, and so there was a little bit more belief in what was going on there. With the McGuire, I mean, it's his second season. There are still some people sitting on the fence a little bit. Was that 8-5 season last year something of a fluke, or what? And so I think that's why there is a little bit of hesitancy, and Tech is like borderline top 25 when on paper. And you look at what they did last year, I mean, they should be probably in the top 15, realistically. And I think if you had a more established coach, more of a known quantity with him, then they probably would be ranked that high.
Yeah, and I think along those same lines, in terms of more established coach, just the fact that Texas Tech had won for, 7 or 8 seasons with Mike Leach leading up to that 2008 team, you know, I think played a part because, let's face it, a lot of these rankings are based off the previous year. You know what I mean? So in previous years. Let's look at the schedule a little bit. Obviously, they open up at Wyoming, which is, I mean, for your season opener, that's really that's no slouch.
No.
You know, it's Craig Bull's a good coach. They bring back a lot of starters. It's an interesting venue in terms of it's a small stadium. I think it's like 29,000 is what they seat, which is really small. Highest elevation in Division I football. All that kind of, you know, out there in Laramie, Wyoming. So it's an interesting first week, season opening matchup. Different style ground and pound, 4-3 defense. So it's very old school in that regard as well. So it's crazy to say that is the weird kind of style, just a normal one back, like 12, 13 personnel and then 4-3 defense. But that's the reality of college football nowadays. And I think it's going to be while Tech is favored by 14, and rightfully so, I think I get why some folks are picking Wyoming because of the styles of the team.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely going to be, I mean, and I think it's good that you're facing a very respectable team. And the fact that you're on the road makes it just a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
You know, assuming that Texas Tech gets by Wyoming, which I believe they will, then this gives you some pretty good preparation going into Oregon.
Yeah.
A much tougher opponent. And they're obviously very different types of teams, but at least you've got your teeth. They've got some blood on it, you know. And it's not like you were just biting into some tofu and bean sprouts or something. At least you're getting into some cowboys here with some beef, you know. And so this is gonna, I think, prep Tech and have them acclimated a little bit better for Oregon than if you were starting the season with Tarleton, for instance.
Right.
I think this sets up well. I like this game.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Tarleton in the setup, because assuming you handle your business against Wyoming, and that's a big assumption. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Texas Tech's going to win, obviously, but we'll have to see how it plays out and all that. And then you play Oregon. If you could win that game, then you have Tarleton, and Oregon's at home, so that helps a lot. It's the home opener. It's already a sellout, stripe out, all the stuff. Assuming Tech does well, you know, and handles their business against Wyoming, this place is going to be rocking. And then you got Tarleton as kind of a buffer between those two respectable non-conference games and the Big 12 schedule, and I think that's really good. I think that sets up nicely, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sort of situation where, in theory, you should be able to rest up some guys.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if Tech is as good as we think they are, then they should probably have the game against Tarleton well in control by halftime.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get some experience with those second and third string guys. You get the guys that are your main rotation guys, your starters, on the bench, and a little bit of rest, and some wounds and bumps and bruises healed up a little bit. And the team should really be set up and ready to go, well rested for the first conference game.
Yeah, and some other highlights of the schedule. You don't play Oklahoma. You don't play newcomer Cincinnati. It's disappointing, especially Oklahoma. And you'd like to play all the new schools, but that just wasn't going to work out with the way the schedule is and the teams are this year. But then
Oklahoma State either, right?
And no Oklahoma State. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I didn't that we didn't forget that completely. That's disappointing. You know, you like to play Oklahoma State, but you play TCU, you play Baylor. You have TCU here on a Thursday night. You have Texas in the regular season finale in Austin the day after Thanksgiving. That should be exciting. BYU there is new. UCF here, who I think is going to be it's a rising program. It's had some success here, and I think being in the Big 12 legitimized, they're only going to get better. They're recruiting well, so watch out for UCF. But that'll be interesting. You play Houston again too, another in-state team, which maybe that becomes a rivalry. So it's a really good schedule all the way around, my Joe.
Yeah, it is, and what makes me happiest about this whole thing is, usually, almost always, when I look at a Texas Tech football schedule before the season starts, I see 3, 4, 5 games where I'm like, boy, I don't like Texas Tech's chances in this one. They're definitely going to be the underdogs in this thing, and I don't know if they can pull it off. I look at this schedule and I look at the team that's going to be playing it. I'm like, I don't see anybody on there that Tech can't beat.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't see anybody on there that I think maybe Tech might not have a little bit of an advantage on, And I mean, I'm talking, shoot, man. I mean, Texas is getting all this publicity and everything, and I'm on record right now as just, I don't think they're all that. I really don't. And I'm not taking the Kool-Aid on Quinn Ewers or anything like that.
Right.
Straight up, I think Tech is probably the better team. And that's the preseason favorite pretty much for the entire Big 12, right? So if you can, in theory, if you're better than Texas at Austin, then there's nothing else on your schedule that you should be afraid of.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to bringing back a lot of the veterans, and not having a lot of holes with the team. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have adversity. I don't think Tech's going to go undefeated. I mean, they're going to drop some games. They play too many good to pretty dang good teams. But like we've been saying, we think this is a pretty good, dang good team that we've been seeing here in spring and then training camp here. So, it's time for them to prove it. Finally, we've been talking about it. It's time to see if they can prove it, starting with Wyoming this weekend. But for now, Monty Joe, great stuff from you as always. Thank you all for watching, and until next time.